1, action. Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about birds and bees. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about sex.
Welcome back to the Mom Suit, you guys. We're kind of crazy today. We just got done with Evo Conference in Park City, which was amazing, and we have the opportunity to be here with these lovely ladies, Mindy and Ginger, and obviously Kayli and Carly. We don't get to see these ladies every day. We're kind of makeshift. We've got Kurt, our camera guy, and a couple of the lights we borrowed from the hotel. So
Lamps,
yeah, so this is going to be fun, but we really wanted to have a chance to talk to you guys. Today, we are talking about sex. And I know that we've talked about how to talk to your kids about all this in the past, in previous episodes, but today we wanted to get Ginger and Mindy's perspective on it, as well as she has older kids, so she's actually been through this, and the rest of us haven't quite yet. First of all, I would like to know, when did all of you guys have the talk? Or did you?
I didn't ever get it.
Ever? Never.
Can you believe it? No, heavens no.
Oh my gosh.
So it was just, I think they just thought I'd figure it out. And I did, ultimately, but I think with a lot of, naivety and some misunderstandings about what actually happens or doesn't happen, and...
Yeah, I didn't either, as well. I feel like my friends taught me what I knew.
Yeah.
There was, a virgin...
Or your sister. My sister, in my case.
There's, a virgin and a non-virgin bed in my college, dorm room, and all of us virgins were on one bed and being like, that's what you really do? What?
In college?
In college,
Oh
being
my
like... Because I think my mom was more... She's kind of like a prude, my poor dad. But she kind of is, she's just very shy, and I think it was more embarrassing for her. So then my great friends in college informed me of how it goes down.
Yeah.
I was like, oh... Wow, that's the truth.
I'm just thinking of conversations we had.
Me and my bed in college being like,
What?
my fluffy pink pillow. I'm like, you do what with the hump?
Yeah, with the hump? That's awesome.
I was raised on a farm. My parents never really gave me the talk. I remember being about 15 and my mom's like, so have you talked to your friends about stuff? And I was like, yeah, I got it.
Yeah,
Growing up on a farm, we bred cows, we bred horses, I had a pretty clear idea.
So the farm animals taught you.
Yes.
Taught it.
And they were all
pretty good
having
education.
babies, it was I was pretty sure how the birds and the bees work. So,
But the cows and the horses. Not the
and not the birds and bees.
Sorry.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, so the cows and the horses, there wasn't as much conversation as actions, but it worked out.
I think I'm too immature to be sitting on this.
sorry.
Immature to be sitting here with you guys. I'm sorry.
I know, I don't know, I'm not telling you. I was like you. I didn't have older sisters, but my cousins talked to me.
Yeah.
And I remember I was laying in my bed with my mom, and we were watching Roseanne. And she was like, so, and sex was brought up, and she was like, so do you know what sex is? And I was like, crap, what? And so I said, it's when, I don't know if I can say this. It's when a guy and a girl kiss naked. That's what I thought.
Oh, yeah,
It's when
that's
a
good.
guy and a girl kiss naked. And my mom was like, yep.
Yep, that's how it works. End of story.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Right. And so, and I think I knew more than that, but I was like, that's what I'm going to say.
I'm sorry, but I have to ask, did you think you were going to get pregnant if you French kissed?
No.
Okay, just wondering.
No, because
I just wondered how
more.
your brain interpreted that. You know what I mean?
I knew more because of my cousins. I mean, they told me things that happened with boys, and they told me different things. But I wasn't gonna be like, I know that this happens to a boy, and then I know that this happens.
Right.
I
Yeah.
was just like, that's what happens. And I think my mom was like, okay. And then you do learn a lot from your friends.
Mhm.
I mean, you learn a lot from your friends.
You learn a lot. Sometimes it's right and sometimes it's not.
Right.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah. That's so funny that none of us, because I actually don't even remember if my parents sat down and talked to me. I know when I was in 6th grade and we started having the puberty talk, then it started to be like, oh, okay. And then we had another, in science class talking about, body parts. And it was just I feel like it was like that. We just sort of figured it out. So that's really interesting that none of us really got that talk. Yeah. And I actually remember having a real talk right before I got married.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was
and how silly
that
is
point,
that?
it was
Oh, the night before you get married. Do you know what you're doing?
Yeah.
it's
Awkward.
well,
Yeah.
So what do you guys think? How do we tell our kids?
I remember feeling guilty for like being curious about sex and feeling like, because you guys all know I'm very out there, and like feeling like not sexual feelings, but like really liking a boy and feeling these emotions like, whoa, what is this? And I remember feeling guilty, like I can't feel like that. I'm a bad girl if I feel like that.
Really?
And I was interpreting those feelings with like, because I shouldn't do that, and it was all about the no's and why's and can'ts, and instead of like really understanding how powerful sex really is and how it can really bring two people together. And I think when the time comes, I want to talk to Cooper about that, and you just shouldn't do that because it's bad, and don't do it before you're married. I want him to understand that it really is love, and I don't care who you are, what you believe in, but I really know it brings two people together, and there's emotions and endorphins and feelings released in your body that you can't control.
But if you were to do it too early with, the wrong person, too young, not really knowing exactly what you were doing, it can be a dangerous, hurtful, heartbreaking thing.
Yeah.
So I think when we one thing I wanted to bring up too is when we talk about like sex with our kids, right? That's what where our questioning is today, like when do you do it and how and stuff. I think for me, like focusing on being hurt and all of that, like being in love and experiencing that and then having that breakup is really important. But also like protecting yourself from like sexual predators and like putting themselves in situations to where they can be taken advantage of, or like just being unsafe. Every aspect is really, really important. But Mindy has older kids, and she how did you tell them, like, how did you have that conversation?
And at what age?
And what age,
So my husband and I really feel like knowledge is power. So the more that you allow your kids to know, the more empowered they're going to be about the decisions that they make. So we're very open. And I think because I came from a home that was really sheltered, like kind of prude almost, like my parents just didn't talk about it. And then when you got married, it was all of a sudden like, oh, we can totally talk about sex because you're married now.
Yeah.
And it was, I don't know, it was very strange. But by then, it's very awkward and uncomfortable. And
you haven't.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like,
no,
oh
my gosh, Mom, did I just hear you say that word?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we just had never wanted to be like that with our kids. So we just at a very young age, I mean, not talking about sex, but about their bodies and how their bodies work. And we use the anatomically correct words. And, we don't, it's not a wee-wee at our house. It has a word. And we use those words. And I don't know. So around 8 or 9 with our kids is when we've had this sex talk. But we tried to bridge it, like, for our kids, we would talk about how we were going to have this big special night, and it was just going to be Daddy and I, and we were going to go to dinner. And for our kids, with 6 kids, having a night out with Mom and Dad alone is a big deal.
Yeah.
So then we would take them out, and they would get to choose where we go to dinner, and we'd have this nice dinner together, and then we would take them to, a special quiet place, and we would just have the sex talk, and we would be very open with them. We had a little book that we would read with them. So the pictures were kind of kid-friendly, and I don't know, at age 8 or 9, it seems like they're still in that really cute stage where they're so innocent about their questions, and they really genuinely want to understand how it works and what it is, but they're not, like, weirded out yet. You're not like, Mom, ew, gross, I can't talk to you, like they would be if you waited till they were 12 or 13, where now all of a sudden it's, I don't want to talk about this with you. So for us, I actually really, really feel bad. I was telling Katilette earlier, the parents that miss the opportunity to have this talk with their kids have missed one of the most magical moments in parenting, in my opinion. It was such a neat experience with all of the ones we have had the talk with. Every time, as a parent, you're nervous because it's uncomfortable subject matter for you, and when you're reading the book, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm using these words with my little child.
Be so careful to present it in the right way.
Yes, and present it in the right context. But they're so innocent, and their questions are so genuine, and it's like you get that opportunity to form their opinion about sex and what they know about sex instead of letting their friends do it or their cousin do it or their sister do it. Which is so neat.
That's so nice to hear, because I mean, our girls and Shaytard is almost at the age, like, which is really scary to think about, but it's nice to hear that it can be a special moment, like a bonding moment.
And I know that seems young. Like, I've said that to people before, and they're like, 8, 9, that is so young, and I think they are going to start hearing it at school. They're going to start hearing it from their friends. You might as well be the one that gives them the correct information first.
Well, look at the shows that are on TV
Yes.
and the way women and men are displayed in magazines when they're half naked. And, I mean, people are kissing in the songs they hear. The world that
It's
we
just
live in is
everywhere.
very
Mhm.
fast,
It
very
is.
forward, very advanced. Like, it's either you tell them before they know, or before they know and they understand. And one thing that's, like, it's also important is sex shouldn't be such a taboo
No.
thing. It should
Right.
be understood as love and
It's a natural,
connection and a good
normal
thing. Yeah.
thing. I mean, it is such a natural
I think when
thing.
entered into the correct way,
Mhm.
it can be a glorious thing. And to me, growing up, I didn't understand that.
Mhm.
It was like, don't talk about it. It's just
Yeah.
like you're bad. You're a slut if you think about it or interact with
Right.
it. You know what I'm saying? And it was like a guilty association. You know, and I think that it should be an association of love and understanding and the great things that can come with it.
And I love what you said about, you don't wait until they're old enough to be like really grossed out and freaked out by you telling them.
Yeah.
When they're still in, they want to ask questions and they want to learn, and you can tell them without
Right.
them like shutting out.
And then what I found happens is that you have follow-up conversations. Like, I don't think the sex talk is one conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I think you have a conversation when they're young to give them kind of the gist, the overall thing, and then when they get older, you start talking about, as they get older, you start talking about abortion in regards to sex, or pregnancy in regards to sex, or STDs in regards to sex, or, gay and lesbian, how you feel about that, how your family feels about that. I mean, there's so many follow-up conversations, but once
Right.
you've
Once
started
you're
the
ready.
conversation, it happens very naturally for your kids. But if you wait until they're too old, then they're like, why are you
And I
talking to
think
me?
that, hopefully that will make the trust stronger at
Mm-hmm.
an earlier age, so they'll feel comfortable. Like, Mom, I heard this. What do you think?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
I think so, because my family was really open that way. I felt like I could go to my mom. But something else that was interesting about both of the things that you guys have said is I've heard a lot of times when kids don't understand that what they're feeling is natural,
Mm-hmm.
if someone touches them or does something to them, they're guilty because those feelings can feel good even if it's naughty, even if it, if a predator approached them, they're scared to tell anyone because it felt good. And
Yeah.
so, we need to
Mhm.
we need to talk to our kids about
Teach
that.
them about that. Mhm.
My husband's so good. He's such a good husband and dad. But he even with like the girls and their hormones, and now that they're changing and they're starting to get the hormone cycles, and
Mm-hmm.
like he says to him things like, now you're going to start noticing that there will be times in the month that you're more emotional, or you might start feeling like you want to cry all the time, and that is totally normal. Like, those things are normal. But you need to understand that when you feel like ripping mom's head off, even though it's normal, that's not okay, you know? And those are totally normal teenage feelings. That's a very normal thing. But try to remember when you're in that moment that you're being a teenager and these things are happening to your body and causing you to feel that way, that you really don't hate your mom, you know?
So, did you ever feel like with any of your kids, because you have a couple over the age, right?
Yeah.
So, did you ever feel that, like, 8 was a really good age, and then maybe it was too young? Because sometimes I think, I totally believe with knowledge being power.
Yeah.
I 100% believe with that. I mean, Carl and I try to be really open with our kids and stuff, but my main concern is sometimes when we educate our kids too young, they might not take it serious enough, and then it becomes a joke, or it becomes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, or they become more interested in it, and so
Right.
they
It's
start
like it just
thinking
opens
about
the doors.
things that they
Right.
wouldn't normally think about at that
What do you
age.
think about?
I would say, I would definitely say that different kids are different. And as a parent, that's your right to understand when that magic moment is for your child. But I personally think between the ages of early 8 and early 10, you need to have that now there's a lot of maturity that happens in those 2 years, and you can decide when. But by 10, they're hearing it at school.
So what's some signs? Can you share like some signs with us to know like if our child was ready?
Well, don't you think that kids start asking questions? A little bit, like you can sense, or they start saying like, hey, I kind of heard this weird thing, or...
Yeah, kids are smart. Like, we're even not being gross, but like I was getting ready for the gym one day and I had like a thong on, and he like was like, Mom, are you wearing Braley's underwear? Like, he didn't understand why my underwear
Yeah.
was so
a little small.
So, but you know what I'm saying? Like, kids pick up on things like that. Or like, my nieces have said something about like my boobs and my shirt, or something like, oh, your boobs are poking out. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? I think they like, and girls and guys,
notice.
like, and they've taken baths together when they were way younger, and they notice that their parts are different. I think that kids are really smart, and
Right.
and they understand more than we give them credit for. And so they're very observant, and that's how kids learn. Is they observe and they hear how we interact, what we talk about. And so that's why it should, like, I like how you're very open. And I think I read a book, and I agree with it strongly, that when you educate a child and they understand what their private parts are for and what, you know, like, and the boundaries with those, they're more likely to be molested or raped, because they're not, like you said, it felt good, but they don't want to tell anybody because that's bad. They're more comfortable with, like, this is my private, this is what it's for, and you cannot touch that.
Right.
Instead of being like, I don't know
You
what's
teach them.
happening. And so they're comfortable and they understand their bodies and the functions and what they're for. Given you can't tell a 4-year-old, you know, but you can teach them parts.
Right.
And I think that it's a scary world that we live in. And like you said, education is power.
Do you guys remember the books that, like, do you have the name of the book that you read with your kids?
It's How to Talk to Your Child About Sex by the Eyres.
Because I think
EYRE.
something like that is always helps the process of
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I loved the book because it was like I mean, as a parent, you feel kind of embarrassed and self-conscious
it's hard
and
to
stuff
know
about
exactly
it too. And
what
it
to
was
say.
literally like, hey, start by saying this. And then, you know, maybe a follow-up question would be this. Or so it was a really good, at least for me, I love like the step-by-step, because then I think, okay, I can compartmentalize this conversation in my brain and know where we're going with it, which makes me feel a lot more secure about what I'm talking about with my kids.
Right.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I had a college professor that was like a child development professor, and he and his wife said they would always shower in front of their children, their little, you know, their littles, and when the child stopped coming in, they realized it was time to talk. Like when they recognized that the child was uncomfortable being around naked mom or naked dad, then they knew that the child was processing it, and then they had their sex talk.
What if they're only uncomfortable, like, with the dad?
Like as a girl,
Yeah.
well, I think that would be your cue, because I mean, you know, as a girl, then the cue would be maybe the dad, and as a boy, maybe the cue would be the
That's
mom.
really interesting.
I know. I'm like,
I'm like, I don't know that I would do that.
Agree or disagree? I don't know. That was his
Yeah,
philosophy.
but maybe that works
But-
for some people.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So we had talked actually earlier about this a little bit, and I loved what you said about just being really open with your kids in the beginning, not only about the sex talk, you know, at a certain age, but about puberty and like girls having, you know, going through their
Periods.
cycles and
Periods.
starting that and all that
kidding.
fun stuff.
Yeah.
I loved what you said about that you're very open with your kids.
Yeah. Oh, from the time they're teeny tiny, like my 4-year-old son will grab me a tampon if I need it. You know, if I'm in the other bathroom, hey, Dax, grab me a tampon, you know, and he'll come back with like, you know, well, which one is it, Mom? You know, or whatever. So, I mean, my kids are just very comfortable. I think even with my son, I want him to understand that having a period is a womanly thing. Your wife will have a period, you know, your sisters have periods. It's part of life. It's the cycle of life. We just need to understand it and don't be afraid of it and scared of it. Like, embrace it.
Embrace your periods.
Embrace your periods.
Well, I have loved this conversation. This has been so awesome and enlightening. And I really feel like, you know, you guys can obviously, you know, decide what you want for yourselves and how to talk to your kids and when. But it's nice to hear different perspectives. All right, thanks for being here, you guys. Don't forget to leave comments and questions on what you guys would like to hear from us. And also your opinions on what we've talked about today. So we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.